honestly thought this was pathetic, cheap, puerile, made our country look bad. And I'm surprised at you because I actually think part of the whole thing of the Brexit Party and you and your persona is that actually you pride yourself on British values. And British values normally include politeness, courtesy and
Manners and respect.
And it seemed to me that you just abandoned all those for a stunt that made us look cheap and small.
Well, let's look at it, shall we? The orchestra assembled and everybody stood for the European anthem. An anthem, incidentally, that we were told years ago had been dropped. And the President of the Parliament looked at the Brexit Party group and said, very pointedly, you should stand up when the anthem of another country is being played. Country. There he was declaring that the European Union is a state in its own right. So what they've done is they've stolen the democratic rights from hundreds of millions of Europeans without ever asking anybody whether they wanted it. So we stood up, as he asked, and turned our backs, not just as a British gesture, but as a gesture for democracy across the whole of Europe.
But there are lots of anthems that get played at sporting events around the world, for example, of, Russia, when they had the World Cup in Russia, for example, where people stand and they're disrespectful, even if they don't like the regime or Vladimir Putin, whatever, we just show respect because actually that's what we're respecting. And whether it's a country or an entity like the EU, it was a Beethoven song, a Beethoven tune. It just seemed to me, with hindsight, Nigel, your political antennae are very good. Do you not wake up this morning and think, what, with hindsight, we shouldn't have done that?
The fact that it's Beethoven, Piers, is completely and utterly irrelevant. Look, what has happened here is illegitimate at every level. Just as my parents' generation were told, you're joining a common market, don't worry your little heads about it. The same has happened across the whole of Europe. And what they've now done is to create a state that now wants its own army, its own foreign policy. And this is completely illegitimate, and that's why we turned our backs on it. I've got no regrets about it whatsoever.
The overriding image this gave to the rest of the world, never mind Europe, is that we're just a bunch of kids and we're not taking this seriously, when actually Brexit is incredibly serious. You've done an extraordinary job galvanising this Brexit Party from nothing, and there you were, your first big moment in the European Parliament, and most people have considered it to be petty and a bit childish. It's not a good look, is my point.
Well, look, the media classes, like yourself, think it's petty and childish. Actually, millions of Europeans think, thank goodness, somebody is standing up to this seizure of democracy from nation-states right across Europe. There is nothing happening in this building that has ever been sanctioned, has ever been given democratic legitimacy. Frankly, the whole thing is an outrage.
Except that you're there as a result of democratic legitimacy, Nigel Farage. You're there because you've been elected as an MEP, aren't you? I mean, I wonder, you're complaining about the media class. I was really struck yesterday, because I always listen to your programme on LBC. I was really struck when Ian Dale, there's a handover between you, and we know that Ian is also, like you, a committed Brexiteer. But when someone like Ian Dale thinks that what you've done in the name of Brexiteers is in some way shameful, I wonder whether that gives you pause.
I am not an appeaser, all right? I'm not going to appease this illegitimate force called the European Union. I'm going to stand up and fight it. I'll fight it for Britain, but equally for other Europeans, right? 500 million people now being governed by a bunch of people we can't vote for and we can't remove. And the fact that the European Parliament is the democratic bit. Do you know, this morning, we're being asked to vote for the new president of the European Parliament. We've effectively been given a choice of one. There is no democracy in the European Union. Nobody ever voted for a flag, an anthem, an army, or a new state. And I will go on standing up and fighting it, even if Ian Dale and others don't like it.
Nigel Farage, are you going to take your salary while you're there?
Yes, I mean, I could live in a mud hut, I suppose, but I will. We have one or two of our wealthier
hang on. So you're
MEPs
criticising the whole legitimacy
which is very good of them.
Of this institution. You turn your back on the anthem, but you're happy not to turn your back on the salary or on the expenses. You're happy to take their money.
Very similar to the SNP in Westminster, yeah? The SNP want Scotland to leave the United Kingdom, but they still turn up at Westminster, they speak at Westminster, they take the salaries. It's a very, very similar situation, but let me say, I really hope we're gone by the 31st of October. I really hope and pray that happens. It's what's been promised to us, and frankly, it's what we deserve.
Your allegation that I'm part of the media classes, Nigel Farage, you yourself are an LBC broadcaster. Are you yourself part of the evil media class?
Well, clearly not, because I turned my back on the EU Parliament, Piers.
Let's very quickly. The Tory leadership contest is, it's reaching a denouement. Boris Johnson looks like he's edging ahead, but it's no done deal yet. Do you see either of them with a plan for Brexit which may ultimately deliver something to your satisfaction?
Well, I was astonished yesterday because both of them were in Belfast talking about this tricky issue of the Irish backstop. Boris said it was totally unacceptable at every level, and Jeremy Hunt said he's going to change it. What they didn't tell the audience is that Hunt voted for it 3 times, and Boris, having twice voted against it, on the 3rd time of asking, then voted for it. And I think what you're seeing are 2 men desperate for the top job, prepared to say anything to please any audience. And I'm not actually convinced that either of them will deliver Brexit by the 31st of October. I really am not convinced. They've got it in their hearts. I'm struck. They both want the top job, but I don't think either of them really, truthfully, have the guts to deliver Brexit.
OK. Nigel Farage, always good to talk to you. I saw you at Lord's last week when we lost to the Australians. Big game for England today. How do you see the game against New Zealand? Quickly.
A great win against India. Tail up. I'm feeling a lot more optimistic than when I saw you at Lord's last week.
Excellent. I feel the same. Nigel, good to talk to you. Thank you very much.